Africa. As you can see, American imperialism want to destroy one of ours. America right now after Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore is fighting for his integrity, fighting for his dignity, fighting for his people.
Hello guys, welcome once again to AfriPost. I hope wherever you are, you're having a great time. We have seen many Africans and even black people abroad coming out to talk about the challenge that is facing Burkina Faso right now. We know that Burkina Faso has Captain Ibrahim Traore as their leader, but then he's been facing a lot of challenges recently. We've seen a lot of coup attempts targeting him. His life has been targeted many times, and many of these targetings have been thwarted by his hawk-eyed security team. But then there was this comment that was made by General Michael E. Langley, who is the head of US African Command, AFRICOM. And he said that Ibrahim Traore is becoming a nuisance to his people. And most of the times, you know that when United States singles you out as a problem to their interests, they will always come in full swing. We saw what happened to Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, and the scenes that we saw were never anything to be smiling about or anything to be happy about. So right now, US is coming back to Captain Ibrahim Traore. And one thing that is being told here is that he is somebody that must be dealt with. And that is what General Langley told the US Senate committee. So in today's video, I'm gonna play for you the reactions that some whites made in reference to the comments that was given by General Michael Langley. We are gonna see why everybody is supporting Ibrahim Traore. Let's watch.
France occupied Burkina Faso for generations. They stole gold and uranium, billions of dollars of resources for pennies on the dollar, while the people of Burkina Faso suffered. But Burkina Faso's new revolutionary leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, says no more. Traore has kicked out all of the French troops from his country in Africa. He has banned exports of gold to Paris, and he has dropped French as the official language of Burkina Faso. It's a total cultural, political, and economic reset. Now, obviously, French President Emmanuel Macron is kind of upset with all of this. He has made his position known. And President Traore beautifully responded. He said, if anyone is ungrateful, it is him, Emmanuel Macron. France exists today thanks to our ancestors. They should pray for us. And Burkina Faso is making it clear that this is not about some attack on France. This is about independence and sovereignty. Just last week, Burkina Faso's President Traore decided to release 4 French spies who were guilty of attempting to commit a coup against the president, Captain Ibrahim Traore, in 2022. The message is clear. Burkina Faso is not the pawn of France or the Dutch or the United States anymore. But forgiveness is also at the heart of their revolution. Traore says that this is not just a split, it is a revolution with global ripples. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Apparently Trump works for French bankers now. He's threatening to arrest Ibrahim Traore. You ought to know who he is. He's the youngest president in the world. He's the president of Burkina Faso, and he has been wrapping up the French empire in Africa. The French are still looting Africa through the banking system, through ownership of all the natural resources in Africa, and they've been straight looting the place. And this guy's been leading the charge to not do that shit anymore. Trying to opt this guy like he was Fidel Castro. I should tell you something. It's probably doesn't seem to be very well known in the world media, but this is one of the most significant dudes in the world right now.
Here's why Ibrahim Traore is posing such a big problem for the West and why they want rid of him. This guy's doing what a leader should do. He's protecting African people and he's protecting African resources. Take a look at what Ibrahim Traore has done since he was elected in 2023. He increased the GDP of Burkina Faso from 18.8 billion to 22.1 billion. He reduced the salaries of ministers by 30% and increased the salary of civil servants by 50%. He made Burkina Faso a debt-free country. Now think about what our government is doing to farmers in the UK, and then look at what Ibrahim Traore has done for farmers in his country. He bought them 400 tractors, 239 tillers, 710 motorbikes, 714 pumps, which meant the production of millet, rice, tomatoes and cotton rose by millions of tons. But the main reason why they want rid of Ibrahim Traore is because he's banned the colonial exploitation from France and the West, who for years have kept Africa poor and weak by exploiting the minerals. All the gold, oil, platinum, diamonds, all these precious minerals have been extracted from Africa. The African people have been paid pennies, and that's what's keeping them poor. Now he's a problem, he's a terrorist, and the West has to go in and help Burkina Faso. Just like we went in and helped Palestine, we went in and helped Syria, just like we went in and helped Libya. They destroy the infrastructure and destroy the lives of the people so they can get what they want, line their own pockets, and have complete control of how the world works. And if Ibrahim Traore, God willing, stays alive and succeeds, this is a big problem for the New World Order moving forward. It means no one world government. It means no one world currency, because if you can't control Africa, you can't control the world. So this is why we need to pray for this man. This is why we need to keep him alive. And this is why we don't believe anything we see on the mainstream media about him being a problem, a terrorist, an extremist, someone with empathy, someone with courage, someone who's willing to die for his people for what he believes in.
He also insulted all Africans.
I think they forgot to say thank you to us. It's not a big deal. It will come with time.
There is a part that caught my attention where he talked about ingratitude.
Gratitude, I am well aware, is a non-transmissible disease to humans.
He is human. Our ingratitude is not transmissible to him. This is how this gentleman sees Africa, sees Africans. We are not human. In his eyes, I think that if he is not an atheist and he prays, every morning when he wakes up and prays, he should also pray to the Africans. Because it is thanks to our ancestors that there is a France today. He should pray to us.
So do you know about this? Have you heard of President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso? All right, young man, been in power 2 years now, president of Burkina Faso. He's a military guy, captain. And I don't know if you know about this, but there's been about 18 assassination attempts on his life. And he came into power at a very strategic time in the history of Burkina Faso, a lot of difficulty, instability. And
Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, he's been in the news again recently. Now, to explain this, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of a crash course in Burkina Faso history. So he took power of Burkina Faso in 2022 in what the Western media call a military coup, but what many Africans and many people in Burkina Faso call a revolution. You see, Burkina Faso was, it used to be anyway, a French colony. Now, it got its independence as the Republic of Upper Volta in 1960. However, the French never really went away. And like many other colonies that France had in Africa, they made Burkina Faso use their CFA franc, their French franc, which France doesn't even use anymore. And as a result of that, Burkina Faso had to go through French banks. And the French banks then could basically buy the resources from Burkina Faso at pennies on, well, the franc. Which is quite a lucrative deal when you consider that Burkina Faso is Africa's 4th biggest producer of gold. And he made it his aim when he came to power to basically kick the French out and take control over the gold reserves in Burkina Faso. And guess what? It's exactly what he did. I mean, not only was it unfair that the French could basically have control over those reserves, buy the gold at a knockdown price, and have their French companies mine the gold and refine it and not pay any tax in that country whatsoever, but also they weren't giving back anything to the people of Burkina Faso. He didn't just take control of the mining though, oh no, he took control of the refining of it as well, built the factories, and this is him just a few months ago getting delivery of their first gold bars. But that's not all he's done in the last 3 years. He has completely and utterly revolutionized the farming industry and the agricultural industry in Burkina Faso. I've heard stories of them even giving students, agricultural students, all the land and the equipment and the seeds they need to start growing food for their own population. And while other dictators, if you want to call him that, the West certainly do, travelling the world by private jet, fighting climate change, he's basically going up and down the country, meeting the people who are helping him change the course of Burkina Faso. This is him visiting 60 independent female Burkina Faso farmers who've been cultivating tons of different vegetables for their country. He's not just wiped out the entirety of Burkina Faso's foreign debt in just 3 years, he's also made all education 100% free in the country. He also cut the pay of ministers by 30%. There was a lot of corruption in Burkina Faso. But he's also increased the salaries of workers by 50% in that time. He's basically done more in 3 years than every one of the politicians in the UK have done in my entire lifetime. Which is probably why democracy is coming for him by the look of it. These are the pictures of French, let's call them organic, protests calling for the arrest of Traore because, get this, they say he's a dictator. No problem with Saudi Arabia or any of the other dictatorships around the world, but no, he's a dictator, the guy who's bringing food and farming and agriculture and wealth to his country. And of course, where there's resources in the world, there's the good old United States of America. This is General Michael Langley of AFRICOM, and he's had something to say about Ibrahim Traore just recently. Take a listen.
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
AFRICOM's General Langley there. If you notice, he never did say who the regime were using the gold reserves, their gold, by the way, to protect them from, did he? Any ideas who Burkina Faso, with all that gold, would need protecting from? I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. And you can't say what's happening here is racist or anything like that because it's Africa, because as you can clearly see, General Langley is black. They never do go to tell you that while it's true that Ibrahim Traore cancelled elections in Burkina Faso a year or so ago, they never go on to tell you why. It's because the people didn't want the elections. They wanted him to stop in. He was doing such a great job. And where is it written in stone that every country around the world needs to be a democracy? I mean, I live in an apparent democracy. And it's shit. It really is. According to many reports that I've heard, there have been over a dozen assassination attempts or failed assassination attempts on this guy's life. And it's no wonder. I know a lot of you will be commenting below. I'm getting Colonel Gaddafi vibes here. So you would think that this guy would be scared, right, of, the Western powers doing what the Western powers do. But he has something to say to them. Take a listen.
They will tell us, Thomas Sankara tried to do it like this, but where is he? He is dead. The Haitian president, he tried to do it like this. Where is he? He is dead. Gaddafi tried like this. Where is he? He is dead. These are the veiled statements made to us to instill fear. If we remain in this posture of fear, we will be cowards, and history will judge us. Our children will ask questions. Our grandchildren will ask questions. We are writing history. There is no room for cowardice.
Amazing guy, right? Consider this. He's just 36 years old. Best of luck to you, mate. Best of luck.
He's done quite a few amazing things in his 2 years, even though they've tried to assassinate him so many times. If you go and look what he is trying to do in terms of key reforms aimed at stabilizing his nation. He has built schools, hospitals, roads, developed agriculture, donating a lot of tractors and equipment for agricultural development so they can produce their own food. They have stopped exporting raw materials. They are trying to process gold themselves, hospitals, all those kind of things. There's a lot of things, even airport, right? And so there's a lot of development that's going into Burkina Faso at this moment in time. And I'm sitting and I'm looking at this whole thing. Now, I'm not saying I agree with everything he is doing, all right? I'm also not saying that everything he's doing is bad. I think any president that is building schools, working on education, all right? Any president that is bettering the healthcare of their people, that's trying to help their people to become more self-sustainable, less reliant on imports, etc., increase production in the country, factories, job creation, etc. I think that is a praiseworthy president. And so the interesting thing is, when it comes to Africa, and you go and look at the history of the last 20 years of Africa, and presidents that have been removed either through a military coup and or assassinated and or removed weird circumstances or committed suicide, you know. A lot of those, or let me rephrase that, some of them were corrupt, all right? All of them were not good. But there were a number of them whose heart was really to better their country. But they have something in common, and that is that they went against the global establishment, if I can put it like that. And I'm not going to define that, go into details, all right? I think you know what I'm talking about. And so a lot of them just suddenly left this earth in sometimes a very bizarre way. So I'm looking at President Ibrahim Traore, and I'm not saying, again, I'm agreeing with everything he's doing, especially with some of his alliances, some of the other leaders in Africa that he's endorsing. Some of them are questionable, all right? But it is very clear that he's got a heart for his people and for his nation. And in his aim to develop his own country, there's been roughly 18 assassination attempts on his life. And if you look at the trend of African leaders disappearing when they want to build their own countries and invest in their people, isn't that a bit strange to you? Isn't that bizarre? You know? Now, I know what's going on. I'm not talking from a position of ignorance, all right? The thing is just I can't discuss a lot of these things on this platform, all right, because of the fact that the video will be removed. Free speech is not always as free as you think. You know, there's a price to pay. In any case, so I'm looking at this whole situation with interest and seeing where this is going. But I'll tell you one thing. If I look at what has happened the last 2 years with Captain Ibrahim Traore, I would say if I was him, I would sleep with one eye open. And it's very hard to know who you trust in circumstances like that. And that is true for any leader, any government official, any president. Sometimes you don't know who are friends and who are your enemies. And but let's keep our eye on this. Very interesting developments, and a lot is changing in Burkina Faso at this moment in time.
Africa, as you can see, American imperialism want to destroy one of ours. America right now after Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore is fighting for his integrity, fighting for his dignity, fighting for his people. No. You as African, from today, 24th of April 2025, you are not buying any Coca-Cola. You are not buying anything from KFC. You are not buying anything from McDonald's. You are not buying anything made by Americans. You are standing unity with the people of Burkina Faso, and you are boycotting American-made products. Stand united, Africa. Stop financing devils who want to kill ours.
Now, if you watch keenly, you'd note that most African leaders are always very afraid of going bold in terms of protecting their citizens' rights. Because if you look at how they have been treated over the years, they have just seemed to be puppets of Western leaders. And this is something that I always talk about, that the partitioning of Africa into different countries was a mistake done by Western nations. And the agenda was not to make Africa developed, but to divide Africa into countries or into portions that they can easily manage and control. And that is what they've been using, the divide and rule tactics, where they have created boundaries between one people so that you look at yourself as somebody from a different country. And that is why now, when people are coming together, they are now afraid. You see that the Sahel leaders came together, that is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. These leaders came together, decided to say that they want to do away with CFA franc. That is the French currency that is being used in that part of the world. And they want to have their own currency so that they can be able to trade with one another and have proper balance of trade within these countries. So that at the end of the day, their national reserves are not controlled by foreign reserves in France. That is something that is very bold that most leaders are not able to implement. And if you look at even the Organization of African Union, or the AU for that matter, you realize that these entities, they are controlled by Western organizations. And those are what they use to really micromanage and supervise things that are going on. For example, when you saw these leaders like Ibrahim Traore and his counterparts in Niger and Mali come together, they were expelled from ECOWAS because they said that if we don't go by the deals that we have, then we have no business working together. But then these Sahel region countries said, to hell with you. We don't want to be part of a Western-funded or Western-backed organization in the name of ECOWAS. And that is why they have been shunned by these other leaders. So if you look at them, whom do you believe in the end? You will come and realize that the leaders who are working to expel people like Ibrahim Traore from the ECOWAS, they are just puppets of Western nations. They are puppets of France and Emmanuel Macron. They are puppets of Donald Trump and United States. And they are not able to come out and really face the challenges that people in those countries are taking or are facing. Look at kind of transformation that Ibrahim Traore is bringing in his countries. He has ensured that the gold that was being used, taken away from Burkina Faso, then taken to different countries, Western countries, from smelting and then being sold back, that was stopped so that they have a company or an industry that helps in processing the gold and putting it full into a bar that can be sold. This one has made them be able to really fund many other things. So one accusation that Ibrahim Traore received from Michael Langley, the general that is commanding the AFRICOM, was that he is using gold as a bargaining chip for self-protection and self-preservation. And that is something that someone would ask, of what interest is United States over the gold that is in Africa? Why can't they just have their dollar, do their thing with the dollar, and allow Ibrahim Traore to do what he wants with the gold that he has in their country? How can a sovereign country start complaining about how another sovereign country is using its resources? I thought no country can tell United States how to use its resources. That is the same way they should not be able to tell anybody, any African country, how to use their God-given resources. I find that very, very disrespectful. And that is why if you look at how most of those whites have spoken in that video, you are able to see that they are in support of what Ibrahim Traore is really talking about. And that must be respected at all costs. It is time we must be able to really differentiate between dictatorship and revolutions. Africa is facing a revolution. We have been taken advantage of for far too long, and it has reached a point where African people are taking the bull by the horn and they want to address the pertinent issues affecting them in an open way. So Captain Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso's 36-year-old leader, has garnered global support amid accusations from US African Command, AFRICOM, due to his bold defiance of Western influence and commitment to African sovereignty. Taking power in 2022 coup, Traore has positioned himself as a revolutionary figure, echoing the anti-imperialist legacy of Thomas Sankara. His policies prioritize national control over Burkina Faso's resources, particularly gold, which he has redirected towards security and development, challenging decades of foreign exploitation. This stance resonates across Africa and beyond, where they see him as a symbol of resistance against neocolonialism. AFRICOM's General Michael Langley accused Traore of misusing gold reserves for personal protection, a claim that sparked outrage, especially after a US Senate hearing in April 3, 2025. These allegations, perceived as baseless and hypocritical, mirror historical Western tactics to discredit African leaders like Gaddafi, fueling distrust. South Africa's economic freedom fighters, EFF, and voices on platforms like X have rallied behind Traore, condemning US interference and praising his efforts to reclaim national wealth. Supporters argue that Burkina Faso's gold belongs to its people, not foreign powers, and Traore's survival of over 18 alleged coup attempts underscores his resilience. Globally, Traore's appeal stems from his youth, authenticity, and alignment with the growing Pan-Africanist movement rejecting external domination. His accusations against France and Ivory Coast for destabilizing efforts further amplify his credibility among those skeptical of Western motives. While critics highlight his authoritarian measures, supporters view them as necessary to combat insurgents and foreign-backed plots. Traore's vision of self-reliance and his defiance of AFRICOM's narrative have made him a rallying point for those advocating for a multipolar world where African nations assert their autonomy against global powers. I think that is what we really need to support. Traore is somebody that is telling today's African youth that you don't have to be well-connected or somebody who is having a lot of gray hair to be able to stand for what your country deserves. I think Burkina Faso deserves a proper leader, a leader who can lead it with the visions that people like Thomas Sankara had during their time. Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.